Manchester United 2, Chelsea 1. An extremely vital 3 points for the Red Devils in what was a chaotic affair. Both teams got a man sent off. But in this video, we are going to explore what happened behind the scenes in this tactical clash between Ruben, Amorim and Maresca. Without further ado, let's analyze. All right, let's get started with this tactical analysis video. Now, this game is going to be a little awkward for me to analyze from a tactical perspective because, of course, Chelsea got reduced to 10 men after Robert Sanchez got a red card in the 4th minute of the game. But of course, in the words of Seneca, because a lot of people would point to luck here, but he said that luck is just when preparation meets opportunity. In other words, fortune favors the bold. In other words, in order for you to get lucky, you got to position yourself in a position where you can get lucky in the first place. And that's exactly what Manchester United did, because the game plan from the beginning was a gun-ho, all guns blazing type of approach. We are playing at Old Trafford in front of our fans, so we're going to get in Chelsea's face and we're going to put as much pressure as we can and attack as much as we can. And of course, that has resulted in that red card. And of course, key to that has been Benjamin Sesko, a player who I'm very excited about, but unfortunately, I haven't had much of an opportunity to talk about him since he joined us. But here, of course, he is applying a lot of pressure on Robert Sanchez here. As you can see, the Manchester United players are man-marking the Chelsea players. So Robert Sanchez really, or any goalkeeper in this situation, doesn't have much of a choice than to go long. And as you can see, Sesko right there with that slide-in tackle, he's really buying into this role as a presser, similar to Dembele for PSG, for example. And as the ball goes long, of course, we collect the ball. And then in that same sequence, in fact, 15 seconds later, Bayindir has been quite impressive with his ball-playing ability, goes for a long ball. And then Sesko is here again, knocking it into the path of Mbeumo, who, when I talked about Mbeumo, before signing him, I talked about his role as a second striker for Brentford when he was playing alongside Ivan Toney. And you could see quite often them having this kind of plays, and that's exactly what Sesko did. And I think both of them could have a very good flourishing partnership in the future, with Sesko knocking it from Mbeumo, but also Sesko being a target from Mbeumo's crosses. Mbeumo's crossing, by the way, is highly underappreciated. But anyway, he knocks it into the path of Mbeumo, who then, of course, gets forces Robert Sanchez to commit the foul, and that's, of course, a red card. And this play is, of course, highly appreciated by Sir Alex Ferguson and Sam Allardyce next to him. And if it's good enough for Sir Alex Ferguson, it's definitely good for me. So anyway, Chelsea were down to 10 men. So how did they adapt tactically? Of course, it's pretty well documented right now that Enzo Maresca went with a plethora of substitutions. In fact, I think that they have substituted 3 players by the 21st minute, I think. Why did Maresca do that? Well, because he wanted to switch to a back 5 with the diamond in front of it. Now, those of you who have been watching my video for a while, my content for a while, if you remember, under Erik ten Hag, there was a game when we were reduced to 10 men against Spurs and we ended up losing 3-0. And I was so mad at that game that I did not analyze that game. In fact, I analyzed the game between Marseille and Lyon, where De Zerbi was the Marseille manager, to show how a tactician can actually adapt if he loses one player to a red card in the 5th minute of the game, which was the case in that game. And it was the same thing, a back 5 with the diamond shape in front of it. And I'm going to show you here progressively why that matters. But anyway, this is the shape that Chelsea went for. But of course, it didn't work that well in the first half. Obviously, we were able to score goals because actually it played to the 3-4-3 system's strength without Ruben Amorim really having to do anything. Why? Because now, them reduced to 10 men, it meant that even though they had the diamond and they could squeeze Casemiro was not really the danger man. The danger man was Bruno. And here Caicedo, who is at the base of that diamond, he knows that Bruno is over there. And Bruno is one of the best players when it comes to off-the-ball movement. So here, as you can see, he takes Caicedo out of the frame. As you can see, Casemiro here, it's got like plenty of space for him to come and collect the ball. But here, the Ligt, who has been also excellent this game, goes long. And as you can see here, the movement that Bruno is doing, mixed in with the fact that Maresca chose to go with this diamond formation with Caicedo at its base without much of a support. Maybe they could have been better going with the double pivot formation, for example, meant that Manchester United had acres of space in midfield. And that's one of the reasons why we looked so good in the first half when we had numerical superiority. But it's not... The main reason why we looked good is not just because Chelsea were 1 man down, but also we were able to adapt to their tactical adaptability. Now, the goal that we have scored also came from that same concept. As you can see, these Manchester United players over here applying intense pressure. The likes of Ahmad and Dorgu, as well as Sesko over there, were quite good at pressing on the front foot. With that pressure being applied, there were high turnovers from Chelsea in their own defensive third. But here in Mbeumo's move, he's not just sticking to his own zone, which is over here. He's actually moving closer to where the ball is. This is actually so crucial in us scoring this goal, because it pulls Chalobah towards Mbeumo, which opens up this space right here. As a result, Cucurella has to squeeze in order to stop this zone right here, because this is extremely dangerous. If Bruno makes a run right here, that's a guaranteed goal, which in turn opens up this opportunity right here for Nosair Mazraoui, who also has been absolutely excellent. So Mazraoui exploits that space, But what I loved about this sequence as well is just how many men we had attacking the box. And I think the Manchester United players really were up for it. Not only that, but as Mazraoui is going to get ready to put in his cross, what I like about this also is how how much variety there is in the positioning and the intended runs of the Manchester United players, in that you have Dorgu now, who is occupying that far post, mainly to knock the ball into the central areas. And then here you do have plenty of players to keep the Chelsea defenders busy. And then as the ball comes towards Dorgu, Bruno Fernandes here moves. His movement of the ball is absolutely amazing. His anticipation, reading of the game is absolutely world class. And then of course he's able to score his 100th goal in 5.5 years, by the way. Like, he's an absolutely insane, an absolute ridiculous player. Now let's talk about the second goal. There isn't much to talk about tactically speaking, but what I loved about this is just the drive. And here nothing epitomizes this Manchester United drive and just determination to give the fans an amazing, soul-filled performance. Because look at Luke Shaw right here. I mean, what he's saying here is, this is my ball. I am winning this duel. You guys can jump with me if you want. I don't give a shit. But I am winning this duel. And that's actually what we've been missing at Manchester United. I know I've been talking about Ruben Amorim's tactics, and I still think that Ruben Amorim definitely needs to improve in that department, make a few tweaks to his system in order to adapt to the opposition as well. But one thing that we've really been missing is exactly this, just players showing up. Just understand that you are playing for Manchester United Football Club, damn it. That's it. Just enter the pitch with confidence, with swagger. That's it. I am winning this game. Nobody's taking it away from me. And that's exactly what Luke Shaw did. And Casemiro could not have scored had Luke Shaw not won that duel. And he jumped in cleanly, and that was a beautiful goal. And the fact that he beat Enzo Fernandez in the process, who mishandled Mason Mount last time we met Chelsea, that was even more satisfying. But of course, while the drive and determination of the Manchester United players was commendable, I think that what's also holding us back is just our decision-making in the final third. Look at this sequence, another turnover from Chelsea. Bruno Fernandes here does have two options, but the best one is Ahmad. Just slot it here for Ahmad. But what Bruno does instead is to go with Sesko. Now, this play could have worked, but I don't think that Sesko himself was anticipating Bruno to go for that. And I know why Bruno is doing it. Again, great captain. This is a great captain play. In this situation, I think that Bruno let his heart, control him over his brain, because the smart decision was to go for Diallo, but he probably wants Sesko to get his first goal, or at least a shot on goal, and build his confidence a little bit. But I'm not sure that was the right decision. But here in the lead up to Casemiro's red card, I'm not going to talk about the referee's decision, but I'm going to talk about our decision making and how it can lead to us making things difficult for ourselves. So Ahmad gets the ball in this situation, and he chooses to go for a lobed pass towards Mbeumo. The pass was of a low quality, but also what I want to ask here is why? Look, we're nearing the end of the first half. We are already 2-0 up against a team that already had one player sent off. We don't need to be playing, fast counter-attacking football at this stage of the game. This is what we talk about when we talk about game management. At this point, like, if I were Ahmad, what I would have done is just pass it to Dorgu and step behind Dorgu. Basically, just signaling to him, look, let's slow down the tempo a little bit. Let's control the ball. Let's pass it around. Let the Chelsea players run and chase after the ball, because we don't need to take any risks. But he took the risk. And that's just the sort of immaturity that, in my opinion, is holding a player like Ahmad, who is definitely a talented player, but of course his decision making sometimes and his tactical maturity can be lacking sometimes. So here we're gonna see how that diamond shape actually ended up benefiting Chelsea. The whole point of having that diamond shape in midfield is to have these players close to each other and rely on those third man run as they did here with Santos over there. And as you can see here, Reece James, who's moving on all the way from that right wing back position, here to take Harry Maguire away with one run. And then this is the space where Andre Santos can actually exploit. So Casemiro has to follow him. So all of this has been caused with these intricate passes and movements from Chelsea that were, of course, facilitated with that diamond shape. And here I'm not sure that why did Casemiro go for this tackle? Yeah, sure, he played the ball, but again, that's a risk that we didn't really have to take at this stage of the game. And also in this position, I mean, really, does this look really that threatening that Casemiro would actually lunge into a tackle like this? So yeah, I mean, these kind of decisions are what ends up, snowballing and then causing us points. Fortunately for us, it didn't cause us points in this game, but we need to avoid these kind of things. Now, how did Ruben Amorim adapt in the second half? Because I'm going to talk to you more about the second half and what was said on social media about Manchester United's second half performance. But before, let me just show you a tactical adaptability that Ruben Amorim showed, where the Ligt has been absolutely crucial. So as you know, Ruben Amorim, of course, at this point, we were 10 men against 10 men. He likes to have that pentagon shape in the press. But of course, we have 10 men, so we cannot do that. So he had to have a diamond formation similar to that of Maresca's Chelsea. But there was a little tweak that Ruben Amorim did that, of course, Maresca didn't think of. And it is the use of the Ligt, who I think played this role much better than Lenny Yoro or Luke Shaw on the left-hand side, because the Ligt has been absolutely phenomenal in this game. But he was also that player who added that extra man in midfield. Everyone has something to say about Manchester United. And I think one of the opinions that I have witnessed gaining popularity over the past 12 years on social media, it is that once Manchester United were also reduced to 10 men, Chelsea were clearly the better side. But I'm here to debunk that. I don't think that's the case. Yes, it's true. When you look at the following attack momentum chart, well, it looks like Chelsea were the dominant force in the second half. But of course, when you look at the stats, second half stats, especially those possession stats, 72% for Chelsea against 28% possession for Manchester United, when you look at the amount of shots that Chelsea were able to generate from that possession, you can clearly see what kind of possession that was. It was sterile possession. When you mix that with the pass map of the game, you realize that 20% of all passes from both teams in the game, only 20% have actually occurred in Manchester United's defensive third. Again, proving that the possession that Chelsea had in that second half was mainly sterile possession, mainly in their own defensive third, as well as the center of the park. So clearly, while I think that the players definitely made it harder on themselves, especially Casemiro with the red card, and then certain players, especially Amad Diallo, in my opinion, when it came to decision making, I still think that the second half and our low possession was actually by design. Because at that point, you are already 2-0 up. Why would we take any risks? I think that the whole point was to keep Chelsea at bay and secure the 3 points. And I think that that was spot on from Ruben Amorim, because at this point, with all the negativity going on around the club, all we need right now, all we need to focus on is just wins. I don't care how we get those wins, but we need those 3 points. We need to climb up the table. We need to bring that feel-good factor at Old Trafford again. And then we can slowly and progressively start focusing on how can we tweak the system in order to bring more aesthetics and more dominance, and more goals and attacking output from the current players that we have. I've also read quite a few posts criticizing Ruben Amorim's decision to substitute Sesko and bring in Ugarte, or bringing in Ugarte instead of Kobbie Mainoo. But guys, those were the right decisions. They were the right decisions. Why? Well, the thing is that with players like Amad and Bemu, despite the fact that Amad really didn't have the best game, they provide tactical versatility and flexibility. That means if you want to move one of them into the wingback roles in order to accommodate other players or to tweak your system a little bit, then they provide you with that opportunity, which Sesko doesn't, because Sesko can only play as a striker. I think he was quite a useful player for us in the first half, but Ruben Amorim had to make a decision after the red card in order to give himself and his team the best chance of winning. Same thing with Kobbie Mainoo. Are you telling me that as we are protecting our 2-goal lead, you'd like to approach that situation with a double pivot of Kobe Mainoo and Bruno Fernandes? Really? I mean, does that sound safe to you? No. So again, Ugarte, that was the right decision. Bringing in a player who can actually help you lock down that midfield, who can bring, run in and legs and energy and aggression, more than Kobe Mainoo, who is more of a final third type of player. So again, that was a justified decision, and that's coming from me. I don't know if you've watched my past 2 or 3 videos. I've been quite critical of Ruben Amorim, but in this game, I don't think that we can criticize the manager. I think that he did everything that a manager could do in this situation in order to secure the 3 points, and he definitely did secure the 3 points. So again, this is one of those situations where, we have to focus on the positives and we have to move forward. The next 2 games are against Brentford and Sunderland. Those are teams we should be winning. And if we win them, and if we, play against Liverpool with 9 points out of 9 in the bag, I could be kind of like mildly optimistic, about our chances against Liverpool. Anyway, guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this tactical analysis video. If you did, please give the video the thumbs up. It helps a lot with the algorithm. And please post a comment sharing your thoughts on the game in the comment section below. Until next time, cheers.